Okay, we're going to be looking at the surface area of prisms in this particular video. So the first thing that I want to do is I want to look at what is a prism, how do you name a prism, and then of course how do you find the surface area of it. Okay, so a prism is a three-dimensional figure where the top and the bottom of the figure, or if we turned it sideways, the left and the right, but basically on opposite ends of the prism, you're going to have the same exact figure, and then flat surfaces to connect them. So this would be a triangular prism because it's got triangles on top and bottom. This would be a rectangular prism because it's got rectangles on top and bottom. This we call a cube, but technically it's squares on top and bottom, so we could call it a square prism. And then we have a pentagonal prism and a hexagonal prism. But basically what happens is, no matter what the shape is, as long as you've got opposite polygons that are the same size and that are parallel, that are connected with flat surfaces, you can call it a prism, okay? And we're going to be able to find the surface area of the prism sort of with three thoughts. The first is, do we know how many faces that prism has? Because if we do, then we can identify them, identify their areas, okay? So determine how many faces it has. After you've determined how many faces it has, you're going to ask yourself what's the shape of the face and find the area of each of those faces. So if there are 5 faces, you're going to find 5 areas. And then to get the actual surface area, you're just going to add up all those individual areas to get your surface area. Okay? So if we look at this first prism here, this is a triangular prism because it has triangles opposite. You might think it is a rectangular prism because there's rectangles at the base, but actually it's triangle because it's sandwiched between 2 triangles. Those are your bases, if you will, but it's been turned sideways. So if I want to determine how many faces this has, then I just need to think about how was it constructed. So you can see here I've got triangles on either end. So my first object I see is a triangle, and then my second I've got another triangle, and then my third object that I'm seeing here is I've got a rectangle on the bottom. And these are the ones that are kind of hard to visualize. So if this were a house, right, if I were going to look at this as a house, I would have, a rectangle here for part of the roof, but I would also have a rectangle over here that I couldn't see, okay? So that's kind of what's happening here, but you're just seeing this inside stuff as well. Obviously, I'm not an artist because that's not a great picture, but you kind of get the concept here that you're not seeing this half of the roof over here. So we have this triangle right here, rectangle right here, and then one on the other side of it that is the same, okay? So another rectangle and another rectangle. And we need to determine what are the measurements so we can find the area of each one of these, okay? So for this particular one right here, we know that to find the area of a triangle, we need base times height divided by 2. So we need to know what's the base of this triangle and then also what's the height of this triangle. Well, you can see here the base of the triangle is 8. And they don't give you the height on this side, but they do give you the height on this side. So the height's going to be 7. So I'm going to take base times height and divide by 2. And I'm going to get 28 square centimeters. And because this is a prism, the opposite ends are the same. And so I have another height of 7, base of 8 triangle. which I can find the area of in the exact same way. So my base is 8, and my height is 7, and I divide by 2, and I get another 28 square centimeters for the second triangle. Okay? Then I look at this red rectangle that is the base of this figure. I shouldn't say base, but the bottom of the figure in the way that it's laying. And it is 8 by 16. So it is 16 long, and it is 8 this way. And really we can orient it any way we want. But the area of a rectangle is base times height. So I'm going to do 8 times 6. I'm going to do 8 times 16, which is going to be 128 square centimeters. And then this one happens to be really, really easy because if we look at this next one, you can see this tick mark, which if you remember, if they have tick marks, that means they're the exact same measurement. And so we have another 8 by 16 rectangle here. And so we can find base times height, or 8 times 16, which is 128 square centimeters. And then to save us some time here, of course, on the opposite side of this one that we're kind of having trouble seeing, it's 16. It's 8 again because we've got the tick mark. So it's another 8 by 16 rectangle. So I'm going to be lazy this time and say 8 times 16 is 128 square centimeters. Now that is the area of each of these individual pieces. So once I do that, in order to get surface area, I'm just going to add up all 5 sides. So 28 plus 28 plus 128 plus 128 plus 128. And that's going to give me 440, I believe. 440 square centimeters. I'm just remembering that from class, so I hope I'm right. Okay, so you can sort of see here that it's not a difficult concept, but it is a little bit tedious doing it. Okay, so let's look at one more. Right here, looks like a Disney block of cheese. And so the first thing we want to do when I'm finding the surface area is ask myself, how many faces does it have? Because I'm going to have to find the area of each face and then add them. Okay, so, and it doesn't matter where you start. You can start with the triangle on top that you see. You can start with either one of the rectangles. You get to choose. I tend to choose the things that are the same first, just because that's what I tend to choose. That doesn't make it right or wrong or better. It just means that's what my brain tends to go for first. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Here's my triangle. That's what I see first, so that's where I'm going to start with. And I'm going to tilt this, so it's like weird, but it is a right triangle. So I'm just going to tilt it down just a little bit when I write it over here so that I can easily see that this is 12 and this is 5. Okay, and then there's another one of these that I'm not seeing because it's sitting on top of it. It's down here. Okay, so there are actually 2 of these right triangles that have a height of 5 and a side of 12, right? So to find the area of a triangle, of course, I'll do base times height divided by 2. And I'll do that in just a minute. Okay, the next figure that I'm seeing, because I'm pretty sure there are 5, is this rectangle right here. So if I have one right here. And so I just want to determine the size of it. It's 12 this way and 8 this way. And then I've got a rectangle over here. And I'm going to have to go under here because I'm writing too big. Another rectangle that is 5 this way. And of course it's going to be 8 tall all the way across the figure. So 5 by 8. And then there is one in the back that's kind of hard to see. One in the back that's kind of hard to see. It's this guy right here. And it is 13 by 8. Notice that they're all 8 tall because the figure is 8 tall. Okay? Then I can do area equals base times height divided by 2 for my triangle, which is going to be 5 times 12 divided by 2, or 60. Oops, 60 divided by 2, which is actually 30. And this will be the same, right? 5 by 12. Base times height divided by 2. And actually, I did this backwards. I did height times base. It doesn't really matter. See, if I do 12 times 5, 5 times 12 is commutative. Both give me 60. Base times height divided by 2 is 30. So 60 divided by 2 is 30. And then rectangle, base times height. So we're going to have 96 here because we're going to do 12 times 8, which is 96. Right here, we're going to do base times height, which is 5 times 8, or 40. And then right here, we're going to do base times height, or 13 times 8, which is 104. And then if I want to find surface area, and I've kind of run out of room right here, I'll zoom out just a little so you can get everything in one screen. If I want to find surface area, then I'm going to do 30 plus 30 plus 96 plus 40 plus 104. And when I add all of those up, I'm going to get 300 centimeters squared. And so that's my surface area. Okay, I hope this helps you out. Have a good morning or night or afternoon or whatever time of the day it is for you.